welcome back to the Claw and the King, episode 3. We are back for a juicy episode.
Say juicy?
Yeah.
Why did you say juicy?
Because that's what the episode is.
It's got a bit of sexual connotations there. But anyway, just go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, we're going to be covering everything from playoffs round 1, what we think is going to happen in round 2 of the playoffs. We might touch on a bit of soccer if we're going to preview the Euros. We're going to preview the Euros. Maybe preview the UFC this week. Give a little state of origin prediction, a little multi if anyone wants to, pick up a bit of money.
You lose money every week.
If anyone wants to win some money tomorrow,
no one should ever take advice from you.
Watch out for this.
Alright, sure.
It's going to be a good one. Okay. Anything going on in your life you want to tell the people?
Oh, well, the Clippers won, so I'm just so pumped right now, I mean, I went through so much heartache, especially going down 2-0. I thought I'm going to be roasted for years. I'm not going to be able to watch YouTube for like 20 years because of Nick Wright. And fuck Nick Wright, he's a bitch. I just want to say that. I just hate Nick Wright. Anyway, sorry. But yeah, I'm so happy that we won, even though we still got challenges ahead with Jazz and probably Phoenix if we make it to the conference finals. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers fan here is a bit depressed because his team sucks. But still, I'm happy it's Larry.
I'm not depressed, I'm just...
Disappointed?
No, I'm not disappointed either.
What are you then?
I'm content with the result.
You're content with losing in the first round?
Yes.
Wow.
Because I think that was what was expected of us in the team's current situation.
No, everyone else predicted that you'd win.
Yeah, because they thought Anthony Davis would be healthy.
No, they thought Kuzma could play basketball, that's what they thought.
Kuzma was our best player, apart from LeBron and AD.
Didn't you pick him for most improved player? I just want to
Yeah,
find
and
that
he
out.
was definitely better than last year.
What was he now?
Yes. I don't know why he's getting so much hate.
Have you not seen all those memes on Twitter?
It's
like
unnecessary.
Shanghai. Him and Chris Dupps on Shanghai.
Yes. He was missing his shots, sure, but so was everyone else.
I mean, what is the aim of basketball? Is it to get to the basket?
But why is he getting all the hate? Everyone was missing shots.
Because you traded him, you kept him instead of Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, okay, sure, that might have been a mistake.
But he's an all-star. The other guy's a scrub.
Brandon Ingram might not have been an all-star if he stayed with us. You never know.
I do know that he'd be 10 times better than Kuzma.
Lonzo Ball? Sure, we should have kept Lonzo. He is a goat, but...
You were like, the one player that we can't trade is Kuzma. We'll trade our entire team apart from Kuzma and LeBron James.
I still believe in Kuzma.
Yeah.
He just needs time.
Alright. Sure.
And a bit better handle.
And a bit better everything, to be honest.
No, his defense is good.
Is it?
Yes.
I mean...
Okay. Alright, well, since we're talking about Lakers, we'll just start with the Lakers. We'll do a season review for them and how we think they should go forward next year. Start with you.
I'm
unbiased.
Well, obviously, I love the Lakers losing in the first round. But seriously, their team is a bit of a mess right now, other than LeBron and Anthony Davis. Look, everyone, you see on like ESPN and shit, and how people are saying, oh, you got to trade Anthony Davis, and Colin Cowherd saying that and stuff. And I just think it's ridiculous because of how talented he is. And if he's injury-free at the right time, you're favourites to win the championship. So I don't think you trade AD whatsoever, or LeBron James. But I think you've got a real problem with your role players. And the role players that you paid, like KCP, like Kuzma, just were terrible. I mean, KCP scored 0 points in a basketball game. He started.
Yeah.
Is that possible? I've never seen anything like that.
I've never been a KCP fan.
I know he played decent in the bubble last year, and I know he can play well with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and he can shoot well, and he's a good defender.
I don't think KCP is a problem, I think.
No, I'm not saying he's a problem necessarily, but I'm saying that you're locked up to these role players that I don't think are good role players.
Like, Kuzma's not on huge money for a rookie extension. He's like 40 million for like 3 years.
KCP's on like 50 million plus. I mean, it's just, I think you're stuck salary-wise, and in free agency, we've got a couple names here that could be great for a lot of contending teams, but the Lakers just can't afford any of them because they're stuck with average role players. And Kuzma's being below average. But I mean, way below average.
Yeah, but we don't need like a huge free agent. We could just get a few nice players, just scrap all the bench, except for Kuzma, and then and then yeah, just move on. You know, have another crack next year with AD being healthy, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously.
Actually, no. The first thing that needs to happen is Frank Vogel cannot coach another game of basketball for.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
he's got to be sacked immediately.
Well, I mean, I think it's like the thing with Ty Lue as well. Like, we don't know how good of a coach Ty Lue is because he won with LeBron. LeBron is the GM.
Well, yeah, we now know that Frank
owner.
Vogel is a fucking terrible coach.
Yeah, I don't think he's that good of a coach.
The rotations he was doing, like, he put Taylor Horton-Tucker on the floor for extended minutes.
Yeah.
That guy's a certified brick. He cannot do anything. He is useless on the floor. He was playing literally Montrezl Harrell, Marc Gasol, sitting Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
Sitting. Oh my god, it was horrendous. I could not believe what I was seeing.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't great. Look, you brought in Schroeder, you brought in Harrell, and everyone thought, you know what, they've just completely got a great bench now, and the Lakers are unstoppable, and they're real challenges for the Nets. But you look at Schroeder across the season, and he wanted to be a starter, and then he's played inconsistent and not consistent. He's been consistent, inconsistent the entire year, and I don't know where the Lakers go from here. I think that you've got Harrell, who has got I think it's a player option, which I'm sure he'll decline for this offseason.
Get him the fuck out of here.
I think he's a good player.
Again.
I watched him. Obviously, he was terrible in the bubble with, Stripper Lou, but
he's good in the regular season. That's not good. No one cares about that.
Well, I mean, no, he was good in the playoffs.
No, he wasn't.
Not last year. The year before he was. Yeah,
okay,
he was.
Okay.
Against the Warriors.
In a series that you lost.
We went to Game 6 against the Warriors with Kevin Durant.
Because they didn't take you seriously.
We went further than every other team, basically. Look, what I think is, Montrezl Harrell is a guy that a lot of teams would value in the league because he can score, especially in the low post. But I don't know if he fits the Lakers. I think Drummond, again, did not fit the Lakers at all. I think it's just ridiculous how many centers that they had on the team. I mean, they played Drummond, Marc Gasol, Harrell, Anthony Davis is a center. I don't care what you say. His best position is center. So they basically have 4 centers.
Yeah. Against
and modern NBA, which has gone smaller and smaller each year. So it was just bizarre, the moves that they made, and it was almost like they were just playing 2K. Like, this guy's high rated, let's get him on the team. This guy's high rated, let's get him on the team.
Oh, that usually works well.
Does it?
Yeah.
I mean, does it?
Get Miami, get Cleveland, Golden State, Brooklyn.
But I'm just talking about the role players. Like, Drummond is like 85 on 2K. Like, Harrell's 84. Like, in real life, those players aren't that good. But I think they just looked at the big names and they thought, you know what, if we're healthy. And look, we might be talking about a different story here if Anthony Davis and LeBron James weren't injured in the regular season and they would have come up against a team like Portland. If they would have gone against Portland, I think they win that series. But I think Phoenix are a really good team. And I think they just got caught out because depth-wise, they're terrible.
Yeah, okay. Well, next season, look for Popovich to be the coach, and you'll see Dame Lillard along with Kawhi Leonard signed to the team. Alright.
We're going on minimum deals now? Is everyone sacrificing?
We will have 4 men in our squad.
Okay.
Now, let's move on to Portland.
Wow. I mean, I mentioned this last episode, how I have no idea where you go if you're Portland, because just that stuck in the middle. Their defense is atrocious. I mean, you can't stop Monte Morris. I mean, just quit.
Yeah, that was hard to watch.
Look, they're a good team, but at the end of the day, they've got to blow it up, and they should have blown it up a year ago, to be honest with you. That nucleus of Nurkic, McCollum, and Lillard never works. It's just their defense is too bad. They play Norman Powell at small forward, even though he's 6'3". Like, their team is too small, and it's just too bad defensively. And they fired Terry Stotts, obviously, but...
Well, they mutually parted ways.
Yeah, mutually, yeah. Everyone wants to be fired. But, look, I think that this Blazers team has got to...
I think maybe run it back, see who they hire as coach, and see if that makes a difference.
I still don't think this nucleus is going to ever win a championship. And I think that, I mean, unless they get so lucky with a draft, like they get a late draft pick that turns into an all-star, or like a all-defensive team player, You know, I think they've got to do something like that to even like consider it. And obviously, I love Dame, and everyone loves watching Dame, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because
you think Dame stays or goes?
Oh, I mean, because he's on such a long-term contract, your first instinct is to say there's no way he goes because why would the Blazers give him up?
Any team that could would trade for him.
But that's the thing. But when you watch James Harden and how he did that, could he do something similar? Could he just refuse to play for the team and then just force his way out of Portland? I don't know if he would do that to the fans and to the city of Portland. But man, it's tough if you're the Blazers. I think the Blazers are in, I don't want to say one of the worst positions in the NBA because obviously Sacramento and teams like that are in worse positions. But in terms of setup for the future, they're locked into these long-term contracts with players that clearly don't work together well, especially on the defensive end, and it's tough, man. I mean, Charles Barkley lost a lot of money. He put on $100K.
Yeah, well, he does that every year. He bets on Portland.
Yeah, which is
because he just lost Portland and Phoenix, and he just bets on his favourite teams no matter what.
Yeah, but $100K in Portland.
That's not much for him.
Stupid. Yeah, but. I don't know what your feelings are about Portland, but in my opinion...
I mean, well, the thing is, I'm a fan of literally all their players except for Nurkic, so I like the team, I think the team's good, but yeah, it's not clicking year on year. I don't know, honestly, I'm most interested in what Carmelo does. That's my boy. I want to see him go around again. I don't know if it's with Portland or not, but, we'll take it with the Lakers, mate. Come off the bench, 10 a game, get a ring in your last year.
Maybe.
Good way to go.
Alright, next team. What's your next team?
Dallas. Okay, Dallas.
They gave us a heck of a series, man. I mean, look, I think you've watched... It's so bizarre how big sort of broadcasting networks like ESPN sort of put out this when the Clippers were 2-0 down, the Mavericks were 2-0 up. It was like, oh, it's all the Clippers' fault. The Clippers are terrible. The Clippers' nucleus is bad. Then when the Clippers win, Dallas have nothing. Dallas are a terrible team. So you can't win from that perspective. And I do think they've got talent on that team.
Dallas?
Yeah, and I know it is technically a one-man team. And I know guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. is a free agent this year, which I think they've got to lock him up because I think he's actually a very good piece for them and is really important to them. But again, that Porzingis contract, it's been talked about a lot over the past couple of days and what Mavericks can do with that, and they're even discussing with Portland actually. Well, it's not been discussing, but I think
I would trade Nurkic for Porzingis.
I don't think that's even the move. I think they were talking more about CJ.
For Porzingis.
Well, Dallas about to throw in a couple of first-round picks, but I think that contract's really bad. And it's not like he plays bad in the regular season. I think he scored average like 20 and 9 in the regular season, which isn't bad at all. And if he played that way in these playoffs, they could have easily beat the Clippers.
I think the thing with Porzingis is people are just frustrated that all he does is shoot jump shots when he's 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
I think more than him being good or bad is just they don't like the way he plays.
Well, yeah, that was a meme on Twitter. It was like Porzingis is actually 5'27". Like he's just the shortest big man in history. But yeah, I do like a couple pieces that they have. Jalen Brunson didn't play well this series. He played it well early on, but he didn't play well late. But I think he's a good young talent. They could sort of merge into that starting lineup. I think that they do have talent there, and I don't think that they're be all and end all because Luke is young. Luke is 22. It's not like Portland where Dame's in the middle of his prime. There's a couple years of his prime left where you've got to kind of surround him with talent immediately. Luke is 22. Like, you have time to build a good team around him to compete for a championship. So I don't think Dallas are in a bad position whatsoever. I just think they're a young team that at the end of the day, they versed a very good Clippers team. I mean, the Clippers are a good team. And I think that they just have to sort of develop as a team. And I'd like to see what they do in free agency, if they let Timmy go or if they keep him. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by what Dallas do over the next couple of years.
Well, I mean, I think this year they were better. Like, they played Clippers last year, right?
Yeah.
And they lost in 6, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they still lost, but they did slightly better. They lost in 7. I think they were more competitive as a team. Obviously, Luka is getting better every year. So, yeah, I think they sort of just have to sit and wait at the moment and then see. I don't think they should go out looking for anything, but if something pops up, like in terms of a trade that makes them better off, or a free agent or whatever it is, then I think they should look at that. But I don't think there's any reason to do anything drastic at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're a young team, and they lost 4 out of the last 5 games in the series, and that's what happens with young teams. Sometimes you verse a veteran team like the Clippers, and you just can't mentally get over that hump. And I think that Game 7 they just weren't good enough on the night, and I think the Clippers they must win that game. Clippers, they cannot go out in the first round. I think
they can.
I don't know what anyone would do in that Clippers organization. I think everyone would be fired if they lost in round 1. So it was a must-win game for the Clippers. And I think at the end of the day, they ran out of gas, I think, and they got sort of overconfident. They won 2 away games in a row, and were like, we'll sweep these dudes. I mean, we're champions. And I think, yeah, but I like their future, and I'm really intrigued to see what they do in the draft. And they got Australian Josh Green in there, which is nice.
Does he even play?
No, but he's Australian, so we'll shout him out. So yeah.
Alright, final West team, Memphis. I don't know, not really much to say. Once Donovan came back, the series was over. Obviously Jar's a star, but I don't think they've really got enough talent to make a serious run anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that, again, obviously Jar is nowhere near Luka, but I think you look at Jar and you look at that team, it's a very young team. They've got young pieces around it. And I think a solid, an all-star draft pick, they're an all-star draft pick away from really building something in Memphis, and I like Dylan Brooks, I like a lot of their pieces, but they're just not good enough at this point. And look, you don't want to be stuck in that 8th seed for a long time. That's what teams like Sacramento did, and it's what you don't want to be stuck in mediocrity for a long time. But yeah, I think they just got to let that team develop and make some good, smart free agency decisions. And it's all about luck when it comes to that. I think in terms of free agent decisions, in terms of getting free agents, I know it's not a big market, but if they can get some good free agents, if they can draft well, I think that's a surging team. And props to them, they competed against Utah. They didn't, get blown. It wasn't like the Heat Bucks. It was a good competitive series, even though they lost in 5. They competed in every game, and they should be proud of themselves.
Yeah. Alright, so now we're moving on to the Eastern Conference teams. First up, we'll talk about Boston, I think. I think their season was really over when Jaylen Brown went down. Obviously Tatum stole them a game against Brooklyn, but apart from that, the series wasn't very exciting. I don't really know what I see in Boston's future. Obviously they've got 2 All-Stars there, but not really much to go along with it. I don't think Kemba's worked out for them as well as they would have liked.
Well as they would have liked, he's been awful. Well as you would have not liked is like Dennis Schroeder. Kemba Walker's been worse than that.
No, Kemba's been better than Schroeder.
Yeah, but both of them, you look at expectations and inefficiency. I mean, it's like every time I look at the box score, he's like 4 for 15. Like, every single time. He's not the player that they bought.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think Boston, they've obviously promoted Brad Stevens to GM for some reason.
What, and coach?
No, he's not coach. They're finding a new coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look, I'm kind of surprised with Boston this season. They obviously weren't that good even with Jaylen Brown this year. And I think that they've got a lot of thinking to do. I don't think they're as bad as Portland in terms of, because I do think their nucleus of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can work together and can succeed together, but man, they've got to figure out what to do with Kemba. They've got Evan Fournier, who's a free agent. Obviously you want to keep Robert Williams. If you talk to Celtic fans, they want to keep Robert Williams, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and get rid of everyone else.
Yeah, well, I think really they have no depth at the moment. Like, everyone on their bench is basically, it's just...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just been a slow decline because they've just let players go. They let Scary Terry go. They let guys like that go, and I think that their depth just progressively got worse. worse. You know, they got Grant Williams out there. They've got, you know, I mean, they brought in Tristan Thompson this offseason, but I think everyone's just a bit disappointed in the Celtics. I think when they went to that conference finals a couple of years ago against the Cavs and went to that Game 7, I think everyone expected them to sort of move on and progress, and it just hasn't happened. And I think, although they've made, like, 2 out of the last 3 conference finals, I think they're in a kind of a predicament on what to do with Kemba. Do they wait his contract out? Do they hope that he does better? Or do they trade him for a more consistent but slightly less big of a name? I don't know what you do if you're them, or... Yes, it's a bit difficult for Boston because is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going to be in their prime? Is that going to be good enough?
Well, I think they need at least something else.
Yeah, and I just don't think... If Kemba put up a consistent 15 a game, but put it up consistently, and put up, 45 from the field, 40 from 3, I think that's a really good team, and I think that does really well. But the problem with Kemba is, one night he's scoring 25, the other night he's scoring 4. It's just...
And he can't guard anyone. So.
He can't guard anyone. It's just a bit of a predicament for them, and they just need one of their young players that they drafted to really surge up.
I think they thought Peyton Pritchard at the start of the season was going to be...
Well, I mean, everyone, because Boston's such a big team, they just hype up everyone, so, I mean, every young player, but maybe a guy like Romeo Langford could sort of develop in that team, and maybe guys like Robert Williams turn into Defensive Player of the Year candidates and stuff like that, so I don't think it's completely bad because they do have a young nucleus, but yeah, they've just got to figure out what to do with Kemba Walker's contract, to be honest.
Okay, moving on to the Knicks, the surprise package of this NBA season.
Well, I mean, they played like the Knicks in the playoffs, I can tell you that.
Yeah, the surprise NBA regular season. No one thought they were going to be in the playoffs this year. Julius Randle obviously won the MIP award twice this year. Obviously most improved in the regular season, and then the most missing in playoffs award. I stole that, but yeah.
Shame on you.
Obviously,
shame on you.
Yeah, in the playoffs, fucking Derrick Rose was their only decent player. You feel for Derrick Rose. Everyone loves him. Tries his heart out, and got absolutely shit all from his teammates.
Yeah, they averaged like 96 points in the playoffs, which is absolutely dismal. I think Julius Randle shot 30% from the field. It was just a nightmare in the playoffs against an Atlanta. I mean, I think Atlanta's getting more recognition because they obviously beat Philly in Game 1, but man, I think that was a terrible performance by the Knicks. I mean, they were awful, absolutely dreadful. And look, I think this was mentioned. I can't remember who exactly said it, but they won their regular season games because their intensity and their effort was so much higher than everybody else's, and they had the drive, and they played hard every single play. But when you get to the playoffs, everyone plays hard, and it's about talent separates teams in the playoffs. And coaching separates teams. And Tibbs is a great coach, but what I'm saying is the talent on that team is not a 4 seed. And they got there by working their arse off. And I think guys like Julius Randle, which he just realised what actual defence was. Like, he just encountered real defence for the first time in his life, and he's like, oh my god, what's going on here? It was pretty shocking to watch how bad the Knicks were offensively. And Derrick Rose is a free agent, so they're if they're either gonna retain him, I think obviously Knicks fans want to retain him, but they've got a lot of money and cap space available to sign a big free agent if a big free agent wants to go there. But I'm intrigued with what the Knicks do in the future because they're interesting because they do have young guys like Quickly that can develop and turn into
I think RJ Barrett was looking really good in the regular season. I thought he took a really good step this year. A lot better than last year.
Yeah, especially his shooting. His shooting got a lot better. But can Julius Randle and RJ Barrett be a duo that makes it to a conference finals? I don't know. I don't think so. I think everyone's saying Julius is a 2 or a 3, not a 1, which is correct. But yeah, I'm intrigued by what they can do and what they're gonna do in free agency and in the draft.
Well, I think the problem is now that there's going to be an expectation that they're in the playoffs again next year.
Yeah, which is no guarantee.
The Knicks obviously struggle with pressure and meeting expectations of the fans. And yeah, I think they're going to be defended differently next year. I think teams will be expecting what they're going to do now, so I think it'll be a big challenge for them next year to try and back it up.
Yeah, and you've got teams like Boston that will come back with Jaylen Brown healthy. You've got teams like the Wizards who will hopefully not go off to an abysmal start. You've got other teams in the East that I think will surge up, and I think it's going to be tough for New York to maintain that home court advantage spot in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Washington. Obviously, got into the tournament through the playing games. Were they a ninth seed?
Yeah, I think they were 8 or 9. I can't exactly remember.
Okay, they got in the playoffs, the playing tournament. Obviously, traded Westbrook for Wall at the start of the season. Westbrook was terrible to start the year, probably the worst I've seen him play. But then, like he always does, I don't know, turns into Mr. Triple-Double. Everyone gets on his dick at the end of the year, and then he chokes in the playoffs like usual.
Yeah. Obviously they started terrible. Look, I think their main problem is role players. You look at the team, it's just like the best like scorers off the bench is Robin Lopez, and it's just not very good. To put it simply,
they have 2 players.
Again, they're stuck with contracts as well. It's not like they can sign a big free agent. They got Bertans on $80 million or whatever ridiculous money they paid him. It's going to be they're stuck with those contracts. And I think Bradley Beal's he's free agent not this year but next year. So I don't know if they're going to be able to retain him. But yeah, it's like the Portland situation. You're not bad enough to get a good young player or a good draft pick, but you're not good enough to actually compete for a championship or compete deep in the playoffs. So they're going to have to luck out with a pick or something. I mean, they're going to have to luck out, maybe find a guy like Nick Batum in free agency.
Nick Batum.
Well, I mean, I don't mean Nick Batum, but what I mean is like a guy that was absolutely terrible, a veteran that was absolutely terrible, or a couple of them, and then all of a sudden they surge up and turn into what their old self was. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see what Washington do. I think it's a very tough place, and Scott Brooks obviously is not well liked because he's a bad coach. But yeah, I think it's interesting, but I don't have any expectations for them next year or the next couple of years.
I mean, I've heard that they're going to look to bring another star in to pair with Westbrook and Beal.
They can't. I mean, they physically can't.
Well, I mean, they can.
Well, I mean, if Kawhi Leonard wants to sign a minimum deal with them, sure.
But I've heard that Drummond wants to go there.
Are you calling Andre Drummond a star?
No.
Did you seriously
I'm not.
Did those words come out of your mouth?
He's obviously not a star, but he's something.
Yeah, a scrub.
He is a scrub, but he's big. So
I've never seen a center go 2 from 7 from the field. I've never seen that in my life.
2 from 7. That's not even that bad.
It is. It's terrible for a center. Drummond won't help you win games. I can guarantee you that. So I don't think Drummond's going to be the saviour of any franchise.
Yeah. Okay. Finally in the East, Miami. For me, this was the most disappointing team in the playoffs. I did pick them to beat the Bucks because
put money on it.
Yeah, because they did the job last year. So I thought, I had no reason to think they wouldn't do it again. But obviously, I don't know what has changed in the space of a year, but they were a completely different team to what they were last year.
Yeah, it's bad if you're the Heat. And I think, again, look, they could, Kawhi Leonard, everyone's saying Kawhi Leonard to the Heat and stuff like that. After this, I don't know. Like, if the Clippers lost first round and the Heat went again to a conference finals, I could realistically see Kawhi Leonard go to the Heat. But is it that good of a team? I mean, you've got guys like Duncan Robinson who...
I think it is a good team on paper.
On paper it is because of what they did last year, but they lost... I think Jay Crowder, one of the most underrated players in the league, somehow every team he's on goes to the finals. It's ridiculous. I mean, he was on the Celtics when they did well. He was on the Cavaliers when they went to the finals. He was on them. Miami went to the finals.
He was on the Cavs with LeBron, right?
Yeah.
Why are they fucking enemies now?
I don't know.
I thought surely they would be mates.
I don't know. I mean, he was on I said the Celtics, Cavs. He was on Miami when they went to the finals. He's on Phoenix when they're the second seed in the West and looking.
He was on Utah for a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on Utah when they beat the Thunder. He's the mystery man. Like, just sign it. That's what the Lakers need to do. Sign Jay Crowder. You're all sweet.
Yeah.
Just trade all your first round picks for him. You're good. You're good as gold then. But no, I think that they lost a guy like Jay Crowder, who I think was really impactful for them, and Tyler Hero declined, like, really surprisingly. I mean, they could have had James Harden. What a trade that would have been.
Yeah.
Miami's like, no thank you. We don't want James Harden. We want Tyler Hero. Thank you. No, thanks but no thanks. One of the most dumbest moves in NBA history. But look, I don't think it's the be all and end all. But again, Jimmy Butler's getting old. You know,
he wants a 4-year extension.
He wants a 4-year extension. He's 32 years old now. He's at the end of his prime. He didn't look good. He didn't look good. Let's be honest. He didn't look good in the playoffs. Guys like Bam obviously are the cornerstone of that franchise. But look, I think the East was so. I don't want to say it was easy to go through last year, but there wasn't any powerful teams in the East. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see if they can sort of resurge, if Tyler Hero can regain his rookie form, if those guys can play well. But yeah, I'm kind of iron about the Heat.
I mean, I think they either try and see if they sign Victor Oladipo and if he has a resurgence and they can make a big 3 there, or they have to try and find another star somehow to pair with Jimmy and Bam.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, how do they do that? I mean, they got Oladipo. I mean, Oladipo didn't play in the playoffs. You got to sort of remember that. But yeah, I think they lost a lot of their depth. They traded away and let it go in the off season, and they traded away for Oladipo. But I
still have depth though, like Dragic, Nunn. They've got a lot of players.
Yeah, but I think the depth in numbers was their key last year. They had Trey Crowder. I know Kelly Olynyk looks like an idiot, but with his hair, but he's actually a very good player, in my opinion. So I think they lost a lot of depth. And Jimmy Butler's not a guy that's gonna. He's not a Luka. He's not a Kawhi. He's not gonna put up.
He was last year.
Yeah, but he's not gonna put up 40 points in every play. He's not a scorer. That's not what he is. He's an elite defender who can draw fouls and score inside and score in the mid-range area. He wasn't good from 3 at all this year. One of the worst. I think it was in the 20s, wasn't it, percentage-wise?
But he doesn't take a lot.
I mean, he's a shooting guard. He's kind of declined from that area. So I'm interested to see what they do. I don't think it's going to be the end for the Heat. I think they're good.
Okay. Alright. So that concludes eliminated teams from round 1. I guess we can quickly say who we think is going to win each of the second round series. Firstly, Clippers and Jazz.
Look, I'm going to pick the Clippers.
Jazz in 4.
In 4? Okay. No, I'm going to pick the Clippers because simply I think I'm a Clippers fan and I'm going to go for the Clippers no matter what. But yeah, it was a interesting season nonetheless for the Clippers. I mean, against the Mavs, and it was just not a great series for them. Everyone's hyped about how well they played in the last series, but yeah, it wasn't a great series, especially to start it off. But they did win 4 of the last 5. I think they did switch on, and I hope guys like Marcus Morris need to step up. He played really well in that Game 7, tied the most threes ever in a Game 7 with 7, which was really, really impactful. And I think guys like him, Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, those guys have got to step up against the Jazz, because Jazz have got Donovan Mitchell, who's a superstar, but they don't have any other star scorers. They don't have, like, Bogdanovich is a great scorer, and Conley can shoot, but their strength is in numbers. Their strength is they've got a bunch of guys that can score 15 a night. The Clippers need to match that. I think Kawhi Leonard's got to surpass Donovan Mitchell, and I think Paul George has got to play efficiently, and I think the role players have got to really match the Utah role players in order to win this series. But I don't think it's an easy series whatsoever, so I'm saying Clippers in 7.
Clippers in 7?
Yeah.
Back-to-back 7s, okay. Yeah, I'm going Jazz in 4 because I think...
Are you being serious? I can't even tell.
Yeah, because the Clippers are going to be tired. they're going to be tired.
They're going to be that tired that they're going to lose in 4.
Yes, because
They just run marathons before the games. Is that what you're saying?
Mitchell's that guy, right?
You're saying he's better than Kawhi Leonard?
Is
he a better player than Kawhi Leonard?
Rudy Gobert
is he a better player than Kawhi
Leonard and Paul George every time they drive?
Is he a better player than Kawhi Leonard?
Yes, offensively.
See, this is why no one believes anything that you say, because you say Kuzma's the most improved. Hang on. Say Kuzma's the most improved player.
Yeah.
And you say Donovan Mitchell's better than Kawhi Leonard. No one can take you seriously when you say stuff like that.
Donovan Mitchell is better, offensively.
Sure.
Okay.
He just scored 45 in a game 6. How is he better offensively?
Because, okay, Suns vs Nuggets. Suns obviously have a 1-0 lead in this series. I would have picked them before that, and that's only reinforced my thoughts. I think the Nuggets just don't have enough without Murray, so I think Phoenix are a lot better than I thought they were before the Lakers series. And yeah, I think they'll win this in 5, maybe 6.
Yes, Suns are a great team, and I think that, although I think Game 1 is the least important game in a playoff series, and I don't think it truly affects how the series is going to go, I think they're obviously a better team than the Nuggets, and I expected Portland to beat the Nuggets, and they didn't because they're trash, but I do think Phoenix are a very good team, and I think if Chris Paul is healthy, there's no way the Suns lose. They just can't. It would be a choke of a choke to lose to a Denver Nuggets team that doesn't have Jamal Murray. But yeah, I don't know how far Phoenix goes in the playoffs. I don't know if they can get to the finals. I think they can, but it's going to be really important. Devin Booker's got to be the man. He's got to score 30 a night every playoff series that they're in.
Okay, moving on to the Eastern Series, Brooklyn versus Milwaukee. Brooklyn do have a 2-0 lead at this point, and without Harden, they're making it look easy, which is very concerning for Milwaukee. They're almost becoming the Clippers of the East at this point.
Yeah, they're worse. That was the worst offensive performance I've ever seen in my life.
They're making Blake Griffin look like he's freaking 20 years old in LA. I don't know that. When I watch Giannis play in the playoffs in these series, it's just like, why does everyone think this guy's good?
Yeah, like in the regular season, you rank him like, oh my god, this guy's top 5 player in the NBA. You watch him in the playoffs, and you're like, this guy can't do anything. I mean, watching that I watched the first half, the whole first half, and I looked at it, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? That offense was so bad. It was like, someone was like, all right, I'll shoot the ball this time. All right, guys, clear out. I'm gonna shoot the ball over Kevin Durant. I'm Drew Holiday. I'm 6'3". I should have got over a 7-footer. Like, it was bizarre how their offense worked. Giannis was like, I don't even know how to describe how Giannis was like so tentative, and he was like doing step back jumpers, and I'm like, what are you doing?
He walks to the free throw line, does a couple through the legs, and then he's like,
he does a fadeaway.
Do I fade away or do I pass?
He did a post fadeaway. He thinks he's Dirk. Like, what is he doing? And it feels like every time he goes to the basket, he's going to get a charge. Like, because everyone's just like, all right, we'll just stand in front of him and take a charge from him. We're not going to block him, but we can just take a charge from him. And he got a couple of blocks, but man, that was when you're down by 49 in a playoff game. I mean, what the hell? I mean, Milwaukee. Everyone's picking, not everyone, but I think most people, especially in like mainstream media, are picking Milwaukee to win. And man,
I wasn't. What the hell?
I mean, yeah, obviously I wasn't, but I mean, guys like on NBA, Inside the NBA and ESPN, they were picking Milwaukee to win, and I'm like, holy crap, how can you? Like, I mean, at least the Clippers, when they were down 0-2 to the and they said it during the broadcast. Well, it's not completely over. The Clippers were down 0-2 and they lost 2 games in a row at home. The Clippers didn't look that bad. I mean, they were close games. And it just happened in the fourth quarter, they didn't execute and they didn't defend well. That entire game, they were abysmal. I mean, how do you down 49 points in a playoff game? I thought that this was a 7-game series, and I thought the Nets would win in a 7-gamer. I don't know how they win. I mean, watching that game just was so... It was... I don't even know... Like, I'm still shocked by it, how bad they played.
Yeah, I didn't even watch the second half, but...
I mean, they got Riff Raff, a.k.a. Tyler Johnson, out there balling. I mean, Lamar Jackson, who you know that Alizai Johnson dude, he looks like fucking Lamar Jackson. It was bizarre. They just let everyone walk all over them, and it was coaching and Mike Budenholzer. If they get swept in this series, Mike Budenholzer's gone. He has to go. But yeah, I think Giannis might be regretting staying with the Bucks if they get. I mean, look, the Nets are a very good team, but they're 12-11 in the regular season without Harden. Yeah, and with just Kevin Durant and Kyrie. It's a beatable team. It's not like it's this unbelievable team with this amazing depth. They're playing riffraff off the bench. Like, their team is not deep at all. Jeff Green, their most consistent bench player this year, isn't even playing. Yeah. I mean, it's mind-boggling how bad they were.
It's just make a wall, you know.
Yeah.
The thing that infuriates me is, why are you taking 15 seconds to shoot a free throw, to have a little arm spasm and do an air ball? Like,
yeah.
How are you a professional basketball player and you can't even make a free throw look like it's going in?
Yeah, I mean...
Oh my, and you're taking 30 seconds to shoot it. Like, what are you doing with this?
And look, Milwaukee, it's a great home stadium. It's got a great atmosphere in Milwaukee, and I do expect them to sort of bounce back. But I don't see the series going on beyond 5, based on what I saw today.
No, especially if Harden comes back.
Yeah, how do you lose by 49 when Harden's not even playing? I mean, it was just unbelievable. But yeah, God, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, Milwaukee, you're in trouble. Okay, and finally, Philly versus Atlanta. Atlanta took game 1, which was a little bit surprising to me. I thought Philly would win this series quite comfortably. I still think they'll win. But yeah, I don't know. I guess Trae Young this is a coming out party for Trae Young this playoff series.
Yeah, well, look, to be honest, I think it's a bit of fool's gold here. And that game that they dominated for most of the game, it was a bizarre finish. I mean, the turnovers late, they had a chance to win. I mean, and then John Collins posterizes on a game-winning lob. I mean, it was a really bizarre game, but I do think the Hawks, because of how bad the Knicks were, I think they're kind of overlooked in terms of how good that team is. And it is a really good team. You look at the team throughout, it's got really good defensive versatility. Capella's a very good defender, DeAndre Hunter. Guys like that are really good defenders, and they got offensive spark players. You know, Bogdanovich, Trae Young, John Collins, Herter off the bench, Dick Gallinari off the bench, Lou Will off the bench. They do have very good offensive players. They've got specialist defensive players as well. And Doc Rivers, I've obviously watched Doc Rivers coach many playoff series, and he hasn't coached very well in those playoff series, to be honest with you. So I don't have I know everyone's still assuming Philadelphia will win this series because you look at the rosters and they're still a better team. But man, I don't know, because just in the back of my head I've seen Doc Rivers be so just stubborn in playoff series in terms of his coaching decisions, and they need to fix stuff up. I mean, how many did Embiid had a big game. It's not like Embiid was injury haggled and he was wobbling down the court. It wasn't like he was terrible.
Well, I think the problem was they put nobodies on Trae Young to start the game, and he exploded at the start. And then
Danny Green was terrible defensively.
And then the second half they put Simmons on him, and someone, who else did they put on him?
Thibault probably.
And he started to slow down a bit. Yeah,
look, in order for them to win this series, they've got to be like, you know what, Bogdanovich and Trae Young are not winning. We're putting Thibault and Ben Simmons. Apparently, they're the two of the best 3 defenders in the league. Put them on those 2 guys. Nothing. You're gonna let Capella beat us. Let John Collins beat us. Let Gallinari beat us. Okay. Let those guys beat us, and we'll live with that. But we're not gonna give Trae Young. And Trae Young's got infinite range, so it's very hard to defend him, and he's very quick. But Bogdanovich, you've got to lock in on him. He's an underrated player in this league. He's had a great season. And Nate McMillan's a very good coach. I think one of the most underrated coaches in the league. And you look at what Indiana were without him this year, and how bad they were compared to what they were with him. And yeah, I think this game is pushed. I still think the Sixers have to win. I think on talent-wise, they're still a better team. And I think it's probably going to be a 6-gamer. I don't think game 1 is the most important game in the series. You know, you've seen so many game 1s throughout playoff series that really don't mean anything, and just maybe one team caught the other team on a bad day, or something happened, or it's not necessarily the be all and end all of game one. Game one's the least important game. So I do think that they can come back to the Sixers, but man, you've got to lock in on Trae Young and Bogdanovic in the series.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to talk about free agents and
free agents? Okay. What is this? Is this a list of free agents?
Well, yeah, I've compiled sort of a list of the top free agents that I think can impact.
So all these people in red are free agents.
Yeah, they've either got some have got player options, some are restricted, some
Okay.
and some are unrestricted. But the main ones this season, I think. Well, Chris Paul's got a player option. I expect him to accept that, so I don't think he is. Kawhi Leonard. Look, I would be absolutely heartbroken if Kawhi Leonard. It would be the most devastating thing.
You would be in a 15-year rebuild if he left.
Yeah, because we have no picks. We're going to mull around. Look, I don't think we're that bad of a team without him. I think we'd probably get the 8th seed. We'd be in the play-in tournament sort of area without him. Because he's that good of a player. He's a top 3 player in the league, in my opinion. And man, I don't think he would leave. Like, I think about it, and he's like, hometown team, he loves LA. And I do think he wants to win one in LA. But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I'm a bit scared, because...
I mean, if you lose this series...
Yeah, it's kind of like, we've got to make the finals, or he's going to be considering leaving. But again, I look at the teams...
Especially now the Lakers, right?
It's not like there's a contending team that has cap space that could afford him. And I do think he did sign this deal originally so he could get the Supermax from the Clippers. And people are like, oh, they signed a short-term deal because he put the Clippers on the clock. No, I think he did it because he wanted to get the Supermax as quickly as possible. He can get that this year, so I expect him to decline his player option and sign a big deal with the Clippers. I think that's probably 90% chance of happening. And I think, as we mentioned before, if Miami would have done better, I think that would have been a really good fit for him. But again, I think their role players like Tyler Hero and Dragic and Nunn haven't been good this year, have declined this year, and I do think that it's going to be tricky for those guys to sort of attract Kawhi Leonard. But I don't see any other team that can afford it. Maybe the Warriors if they could somehow get rid of Draymond and Wiggins, but I don't see him doing that. I honestly do see him staying with the Clippers, but there's always a chance. He's the biggest free agent on the market this season, and it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know what your opinion is, if he's going to stay away. Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm obviously hoping that he leaves you guys in tatters, but honestly, I do think he'll stay.
I just don't think there's many suitors out there for him. If there was, like when they had that massive free agent class with Kevin Durant on it a couple of years back, I think if the Warriors were open or if another elite team were open, I do think he would be sort of considering it. But yeah, I don't see him saying. Mike Conley is a unrestricted free agent, big time for Utah. They've got to keep him.
Really?
Utah, he is so crucial for that Utah team, and he's such a good fit alongside Donovan Mitchell. It allows him Donovan Mitchell to slash to the basket and sort of attack the basket, and it spaces the floor out so well. He's such a great three-point shooter, and he's such a great individual defender. He is 33 years old.
If you give him a big deal, he's gonna be falling off by the end of it.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I think if you're Utah, I think you're going to kind of gauge how far you go in this playoff series, and if you can make a push to a championship. Another big one that's been mentioned, Kyle Lowry. Now, he's obviously not going to stay in Toronto. There's a lot of teams that I don't know where he's going to go. Obviously, Philadelphia's been mentioned because he's he's a native of Philadelphia and he loves Philadelphia, but I don't know where he'd go. I don't know what your opinion is of it.
Lakers? He'd come to Lakers. I'll take him.
Who are you... Like, you keep on mentioning the Lakers. Who can you realistically afford?
It's not about...
They're not signing minimum deals.
Teams always find a way to fit the players in.
Not if you're paying Kuzma and Caldwell Pope like $100 million combined.
That's over like 4 years. Lowry, he doesn't need a lot of money. He's already got a lot of money. He'll take a nice little deal with us.
Hey Carl, would you rather have $90 million or $2 million? Oh, I don't know, gee.
Well, we'll give you like 30 or something.
You can't afford that.
Yeah, we can. Definitely.
Look,
We've got big pockets.
I do think it's going to be interesting because guys like, and obviously you look down the list at DeMar DeRozan, and guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dennis Schroeder, if they're going to take those mid-level exceptions, because if they do, it's kind of going to be intriguing which team, contender they go to, because I expect DeMar. I think, even though I don't think Kyle Lowry would reject that money, I think a guy like DeMar DeRozan would, on a 1-year deal and a mid-level exception to the Lakers. I actually do see that happening because he's a hometown of LA, and I do think that on a 1-year deal he'd sort of sacrifice it to win a ring, because he's always been the guy that in Toronto that he never was good enough to be a number one to win it for the Raptors, and Kawhi Leonard has kind of taken his thunder in Toronto, and it's going to be interesting to see if he takes the money, or if he takes mid-level exception. You look at other free agents. Kelly Oubre is another one.
I think Lonzo Ball's probably the other interesting one.
Yeah, Lonzo. What happens with Lonzo? I think he was one of the only rookies. I mean, everyone got paid from his draft class. You guys like Markelle Fultz got paid. Jonathan Isaac got paid.
Tatum? Is that?
Tatum got paid, but he got paid a while ago. But off-season wise, a lot of people. De'Aaron Fox got paid. A lot of players from around his draft pick got paid, and Lonzo, I think he's going to take the money. I don't think a team like, I know it'd be nice, but a team like the Clippers would get him. I don't think so. I think he will go to the money and
to Charlotte. And they'll sign D'Angelo.
It depends what they do.
I'll be the coach.
It depends what they do with Terry Rozier, to be honest. I do see that happening if...
Well, they would have to get rid of Graham and Rozier.
Well, Graham's not on any money, and he's a free agent this year, so I do think that could happen.
So one of them's going to play two.
But I don't think they want to get rid of Terry though. I don't think Lonzo to Charlotte is a realistic option. But yeah, it's a lot of interesting. Even though there's no headliners this off season, I do think there are actually players that can make an impact on contending teams and like playoffs, just regular playoff teams that have a bit of salary cap, like a Memphis. They could go out and get they could get a Lonzo Ball, they could get a Kelly Oubre, they could get a Tim Hardaway, they could get these kind of players that could really exceed them on an offensive level and a defensive level. They could really impact them and sort of move them up in the power rankings. So I'm intrigued to see what happens, and if players are willing to, if the top players in this free agent class are willing to accept lower deals in order to go to contenders, and if the trend of how the buyout market has gone this year and how all those players got minimum deals, they got paid their original deals, which is ridiculous money, like Blake Griffin and LaMarcus, plus they got minimum deals to go on contenders. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out, and if winning is really sort of going to take over in terms of free agent decisions. I'm intrigued with what those guys do, to be honest with you, because they're on contending teams. I mean, you look at the top three, in my opinion. Chris Paul, who I think he will accept this player option, but Kawhi Leonard on a contending team, Mike Conley on a contending team, Oladipo on a playoff team, DeMar DeRozan on a playoff team, Kyle Lowry should be on a playoff team. Dennis Schroeder on a playoff team, Tim Hardaway, I said, Evan Fournier, Danny Green, Kelly Oubre. These players are on contending teams, and they're actually very impactful role players on these teams. So I'm going to be interesting. Dinwiddie, another one. If Brooklyn,
I think Dinwiddie's going to go probably.
I think he will. But if Brooklyn can retain him, I think that'll be an even better. You got a 6 Man of the Year contender off the bench if you're Brooklyn, which is brilliant. So yeah, I'm really intrigued with that.
Okay, so I think that concludes the NBA talk for this week. I guess with the Champions League coming to an end, obviously, as we are huge.
I am
football fans over here. We love soccer and that. International season ramping up. Euros 2020 taking place in 2021.
Obviously, I'm an England fan, so I think Southgate is a proud. He picked 20 defenders. He picked 4 right backs. You know that, right? 4. He picked a player that played for Brighton. Do you know what Brighton is?
Yeah.
It's a football club. That's shit.
What it is.
It's bizarre to me. He left Lingard out the squad. He left guys like Ward-Prowse out the squad. It was a terrible selection. They've scored like 1 goal against Romania in the
but isn't this England's golden era?
They say that every era, to be honest, mate. But no, look, the offensive talent that England have, I want them to win.
I want them to win?
I think they can.
Oh my God.
I do. The group, but the problem is if they win the group, they're either going to come up against Portugal, Germany, or France in the next round, which ain't great. To be honest with
You
you.
have to beat them at some point.
So yeah, I'm gonna be looking forward to the Euros. You know, obviously, I'm a diehard England fan. I'm a diehard Man United fan. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can if it's going to come home again. If it's going to be coming home.
Well, does the Euros count as coming home?
Yeah, football encapsulates the Euros and the World Cup. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I obviously would want. It's going to be interesting to see who and what formation he picks, and I don't think he's a very good manager. I don't think many English fans think he's a good manager. He looks weird as well. He's got a very long.
Well, who should be the manager then?
I mean,
Stevie G.
Stevie G. I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible pick actually. I mean, he's won the. I don't think he'd leave Rangers for the England job. I mean, he might do, but I think that'd be actually a very good pick. But yeah, there's not many attacking players in the squad because he's picked 10 defenders, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see, and obviously we're coming up against. I think the group is.
Who's in the group?
Croatia, Scotland. I can't exactly remember the last team, but I do expect us to get out of the group, obviously. But yeah, look, I'd be so sad if we didn't win, and Gareth. If we don't win, Gareth Southgate has got to go.
Czech Republic, Croatia, Scotland.
Yeah, so it's not an easy group because Croatia's a good team, and Scotland have solid players, I'd like to say. But yeah, Euro previews. Who do you think's gonna win? Obviously, you're a French.
Yeah, I'm a Frenchie.
Yeah,
so
you're a Frenchie. So
France all the way. Mbappe is the new Ronaldo.
can you name 5 players in the French squad? Can you just?
Yeah.
Do you want
Lloris.
Lloris, yeah.
Mbappe.
Yeah.
The Madrid centre back.
What's his name?
Varane.
Yeah.
Pogba.
Yep.
How many is that? That's 4, right?
Yep.
Okay. I can do this easy. Is Matuidi still in there?
I think he might be actually. I think he plays for Inter Milan. Not Inter Milan. He plays for Inter Miami.
Benzema in there?
I think he is. Yeah.
Okay, easy.
So you just picked all the 2010 guys that you still remember.
No, Mbappe wasn't 2010.
Yeah, but he's one of the most famous footballers.
Griezmann.
Yeah, I mean,
See, I know basically the whole team.
you really don't.
Patrice Evra.
He retired 5 years ago.
What's his name? What
Anyway,
his
no one cares
the guy
about
with the
the
bald
French.
head.
No one cares about the French. Okay, the French
Frank
are.
Ribery.
You're just naming the France team like 10 years ago.
Zinedine Zidane.
But no, I think that France obviously are the front runner because their team is that deep and that good. But yeah, I'm gonna sort of hope for England to win. I think. I do think that Portugal are an underrated team because Bruno Fernandes.
How was Portugal, Germany, and France in the same group?
I know it's a bit ridiculous,
At
but
the Euros.
well, Germany has played terrible in the last World Cup, but I do think Portugal's an underdog. Even though they're not really an underdog, I think they're not considered as like one of the top dogs, and I do think they're actually a very good team. And
Isn't Belgium up there? Surely they're a chance.
well, their defense is dog shit. I mean, let's be real.
But they
Ever
got
since
all
Company,
they got all the attackers.
yeah, but they got trampoline touch, aka Lukaku.
Trampoline touch.
He's terrible.
But Hazard, he's a beast.
Is he? He's a fat beast. That's what he is. But yeah, I think Belgian team is not where it was back in the World Cup. It's still a very good team, but I think the defense.
De Bruyne, isn't he the best in the world now?
He's not the best. Oh yeah, he probably is one of the best, but he's not in the greatest form. But yeah, in my opinion, England, it's coming home. It's coming home.
It's coming home.
All right.
England.
Yes, that is my prediction.
Okay. Put all your life savings on England.
I'm not you. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna bet Miami to upset Milwaukee in a first round series.
Why? A reasonable bet.
They got swept.
Just because it didn't happen.
Yeah, but they got swept. It's like it's not very smart in a multi, is it, mate?
Okay.
Anyway, do you want to talk about the UFC?
Okay. UFC this week. Huge card. I think the card of the year so far. Three big fights on the card. I guess we'll start with Nate making his return. He's had a Nate Diaz from Stockton, California.
Stuffed him.
Yeah, so this is his first fight since he got dropped 45 times by Masvidal, and the fight got stopped by that cut. He's taking on Leon Edwards, which, I don't know, Nate Diaz is unranked and he's got a fight against a third ranked welterweight, which only Nate Diaz could do.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're a big name. Conor hasn't fought in if Conor didn't fight in 20 years, he'd still come up against a top 5 contender.
But yeah, whenever Nate has fought legitimate welterweights like Masvidal, and when he went
Conor McGregor. What about Conor?
No, not Conor.
Conor.
When he went up to welterweight before fighting Conor, like Rory McDonald, I think, a few other people, he's always looked a little weaker and a little undersized, and I think Leon is one of the best welterweights in the world. His striking is very good. He's probably going to be a bit too slick for Nate. I think if Nate can get it down to the ground, he might have a chance. I hope Nate wins. I'm a big Nate fan, and if he wins this fight, he's no doubt getting a title shot, which would be hilarious to see, because Usman would be charged with manslaughter in that fight. But it would still be cool to see. If he wins, he could do the Conor trilogy, I guess.
Well, yeah, I think that's his fight. I think Diaz-McGregor is the fight. I think both of those guys are they're not good enough to fight the elite of the elite. They're not the elite of the elite anymore. And I think just fighting each other, I think that Diaz-McGregor 3 would make so much money, and I think the UFC want that to happen, so I think they want, obviously, Diaz to win, and they want McGregor to come up against Diaz, and yeah, the thing with Diaz is like, you couldn't knock him out with a crowbar, but he's a tough motherfucker, but he's just not that good, is he? He is
good, he's not the crispest striker, it's a little...
Yeah, he's just a street fighter, he's not...
Yeah.
He's like a Mexican Kimbo Slice.
I guess, but he's American. Okay, the co-main event, you probably don't know either of these fighters. Davison Figueiredo
I
versus
do know Israel
Brandon
Adesanya. I didn't know.
The co-main.
No, whoops.
Davison Figueiredo versus
Hang on, wouldn't co-main suggest that it's two? Like the co-main would be shared. Like, is there...
It goes co-main event, then main event.
Why? But a co-main event would assume there's two, like, at the top.
Yeah, so there's two main events. Figueiredo, Moreno, Adesanya, Vittori.
Yeah, I know who Adesanya is then.
Yeah, okay, but the co-main event fight is...
Alright, just go on.
Okay.
I'm sorry that the UFC doesn't understand basic
For the flyweight championship, Figueiredo is the champ, and this is actually a rematch. The first fight took place in December last year and was a fight of the year contender. It was a crazy fight, and it ended in a draw, which saw Figueiredo retain. Obviously, Dana gave Moreno the rematch because it did end in such controversy. I do think, however, Figueiredo will obliterate him this time, because in the first fight he was clearly the harder hitter. It looked like he didn't respect Moreno, who was he is actually Mexican, so he's got that chin of steel, and he's very quick as well, has a really nice jab, but I think Figueiredo is too big and too strong, and with this layoff now, he took that fight, they both took that fight on 3 weeks notice, but I think with the bigger layoff, a lot more time to get down to weight, I think he'll probably win this one convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you say.
You don't know either of those fighters?
I've heard of Figueiredo, to be honest with you. I've heard him in passing conversation. But yeah, I mean, obviously I know Adesanya and I expect him to win, but...
Okay, yeah. So the main event is Adesanya versus Vittori. This is also a rematch. Adesanya won the first fight by split decision, which is basically Marvin Vittori's claim to fame, that he nearly beat Adesanya. He is on a 4-fight winning streak, I think. His last fight was against Kevin Holland, which I don't think you should be getting a title fight after beating Kevin Holland, who's the 10th ranked guy. Obviously, Robert Whittaker is a way more deserving opponent. On a 3-fight win streak, defended his number 1 spot 3 times now, but obviously Adesanya's team wanted the fight to happen now. Whittaker just had a fight against Gastelum and he couldn't make that turnaround happen, so Vittori steps up and gets the shot. As for how I see this fight playing out, I think Adesanya wins the fight again. Probably, if not by decision, I can see him knocking him out. I think his striking is too crisp. Vittori's only chance really is to take him down like Jan Blachowicz did against Adesanya in his last fight. I just think Vittori is a bit smaller, a bit slower, not as strong as Blachowicz. So I think Adesanya will be able to keep it standing long enough to get the job done.
I couldn't have said it better myself, to be honest with you. Just everything that you just said, I knew in my head, but I just wanted you to say. Because
Okay.
I want you to be the man.
So yeah, if you want to make some money on the UFC,
Don't take any.
Leon
Don't.
into Figueiredo into Adesanya.
The day that you make credible betting predictions is the day that Margot Robbie wants to marry you.
Oh my god. Fuck, that is amazing.
Yeah, that's
I
the
would
point.
love to
It's
marry
never
her.
going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Wow.
That's the point of what I said.
Shouldn't have said. That's just got me really excited.
You're a weird kid.
Marrying Margot Robbie. Wow.
Bro, okay. He was a figure of speech.
Wow. Okay. Alright. I guess since Origin's tomorrow, we'll quickly preview Origin. Obviously, if you live in Australia, it's one of the best times of the year, Origin. Great spectacle.
Yeah.
Really is just amazing.
Go to the pub, have a couple of beers, enjoy the game.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing.
Why are you salivating so much over it? Oh my
I
god,
just love
I
Origin.
love it so much.
Alright, so yeah, if you don't know, it takes place between New South Wales and Queensland, 2 states in Australia. Yeah, and obviously Queensland won last year with a very big upset. New South Wales was meant to dominate that series, but they choked it somehow. So yeah, this year in the selections, obviously there's a lot of Panthers in the New South Wales team, which is probably the biggest story.
Yeah.
Well deserved for all of them. Obviously they were undefeated until last week, and I think that combination, especially between Luai and Cleary in the halves, that should transfer into Origin and they should obliterate Queensland, winning 50-0 all 3 games.
Do you even get an unbiased thought in your head? Look, I'm obviously a New South Wales supporter, and you're only a fucking prat if you're not, and you live in New South Wales. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a bit tougher because 2 games are in Queensland, and I think that's obviously Queensland play very well in Queensland. I think that's a well-known fact, and guys like Dan Gagai play very well in Queensland, and I think that it's going to be tough. But I do think the team is much better than last year. You look at the King was in the centres. There was no Turbo last year. There was no Latrell. And I do think those guys are such impactful players that it's going to be, I think, a New South Wales win. I think Tupou was unlucky to miss out, in my opinion, instead of...
What?
Well, I think I like Brian To'o, but under the aerial ball, he's absolutely gobshite.
Yeah, but he doesn't throw offloads that lead to tries.
Yeah, but that happened once, and he had a very good series last year. But Daniel Tupou is had a very good season this year, and I think under the high ball is because how big kicking is in Origin.
This is how you deal with the high ball.
Well, Cherry Evans is a great kicker, and you need to defend.
Turbo is next to To'o. When they're defending, put Turbo on the wing to take the catches, To'o in the centres.
Yeah, but you can kick it to the centres, mate.
Well, then Turbo can run.
They've got guys like Capewell that could come in and because he's much tall. He's obviously going to jump over Brian To'o because Brian To'o is this tall.
Not necessarily.
But look, no, I do think that's probably the one weakness that New South Wales have is the high ball. Because Cherry Evans is a very good kicker.
Because he's the best meter eater in the comp.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's plus and minuses to it. And I do think if Brian To'o does have a bad game, you will be substituted by Tupou. I think, you've got to, because I think that the high ball is so important and meat eaters are so important in Origin. But Tupou's a good meat eater as well.
I think you would put Turbo on the wing and bring someone else into the centres over Tupou.
You think Tupou's a bad
I
player?
don't think he's played well this year.
You don't think he's played well?
No.
Well, you obviously haven't watched many games, have you? But no, I do think Tupou was unlucky to miss out, but I do think the team's a lot better than last year. I think the King is an absolutely horrendous centre, and I think that's one of the reasons. And Isaiah Yeo was playing centre, and my nan is faster than Isaiah Yeo.
Definitely not.
So I think that
Isaiah Yeo's a god.
Kurt Capewell ran past him every time.
Capewell's good.
Gagai ran past. I mean, Gagai's quick, but still, he just got absolutely obliterated in the centres last year. But I do think the team is much more fulfilled. Is that a word to use for that?
Well-rounded.
It's a lot more well-rounded.
Way better. Unstoppable.
But I do think Queensland are better. I do think their team has gotten a lot healthier.
They don't got Palmer.
Yeah, but they got Who's starting at fullback for them? I can't even
Val
remember.
Holmes.
Val Holmes. I don't think Val's in good form. I would have started Brimson personally at fullback, but that's just my opinion. And
They want Brimson on the bench, I guess.
yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. But I do think 2 games at Queensland do make it a bit difficult. But I do pick New South Wales to win in 3.
In 3.
2-1.
Decider in New South Wales.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Are you thinking do you actually genuinely think it's going to be a 50-0 sweep every time?
No. This is, to be honest, here's my multi for tomorrow. If you want to make
Stop giving your multi away. No one cares about your multi.
Yeah, but
always lose.
I'm just telling it.
Okay,
as I said.
go ahead.
Anytime try scorer, Nathan Cleary. That's the first link.
Okay.
The reason I think this is because Nathan Cleary is yet to score in Origin. This will be his.
It's not a very good record, is it?
This will be his 9th game in Origin, I believe.
It's not very good.
So he's bound to score at some point.
Or
And
he could
he's
just choke.
easily the best halfback in the comp right now. So I see him, with all the strikeout wide, I see Queensland rushing up, little show and go through, scores, easy.
Or he could choke like he did in the final last week.
First leg, Nathan Cleary anytime. Second leg, Dane Gagai anytime. Reason for this, Dane Gagai turns into a god in Origin.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the safest bet known to man. Right?
He literally scores every game he plays in Origin, so that's a safe bet. But that also raises the odds of this next part because I picked a Queenslander and a New South Wales player to score. Final part, New South Wales win 1-12 margin.
1-12, so you think it's going to be a close game?
Yes, because it's in Queensland, I think it will be close. But I think New South Wales will win and those 2 players will score. And that should win you.
Watch Turbo score 5 tries.
Put a week's rent on that, pay for a month's rent.
I don't think that's very safe gambling advice, dude.
I'm not a financial advisor, so...
Didn't you lose all your money on Bitcoin?
It's not lost because I haven't withdrawn, so...
How much are you down right now?
You only lose when you withdraw. I'm probably down on the Bitcoin.
Like in total?
7. Well, in total I'm about even. But on Bitcoin I'm probably down 700.
How much were you up a couple of weeks ago?
On Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, like at its peak, how much were you up altogether?
Altogether, at its peak, I would have been up 4K.
So you could have 4K in your bank account. But instead, let's hold on to Bitcoin. Let's hold it. Hold.
It's going to go to 100K soon. So.
Okay. All you need is Elon Musk to tweet about it.
Yeah, just stop tweeting about Dogecoin, you prick.
Anyway, I think that's it for today's episode.
Yep, that wraps it up. Another episode of The Corner on the King done. Fucking get in there.
Do not take Oscar's betting advice, whatever you do.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing you
Thanks
could
for
possibly
watching.
do.
Everyone, please like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe, please.
And don't take his betting advice.
We'll see you
Again.
guys next one. Peace out.
Oh,